The story so far is this: have you ever found yourself questioning the real motives behind your partner's affection? I'm starting to wonder if my relationship is less about love and more about my wallet. It hit me the other day when I realized that every date, every trip, and even her daily expenses have somehow fallen onto my shoulders. I can't shake the feeling that I might just be a convenient financial crutch rather than a cherished partner. Is love really blind, or am I just blinded by love? I need to figure out what's really going on here. I'm a 28-year-old guy working as a software engineer in a mid-sized tech firm. I've been in a relationship with my girlfriend Emma for about a year and a half now. We met through mutual friends at a housewarming party, and things clicked almost instantly. She's a 26-year-old graphic designer, vibrant, creative, and full of life. Our relationship started off like a dream. We were the couple that others envied, always laughing, always on some adventure. Initially, I didn't mind footing the bill for our outings or surprises. After all, I was brought up to believe that treating my partner was a part of being in a loving relationship. But lately, it started to feel like a pattern that's becoming hard to ignore. It began subtly, with her asking me to cover a few dinners because she'd forgotten her wallet, or telling me she'd pay me back for concert tickets and then never following up. At first, I brushed it off, convincing myself it was just a phase or that she'd been genuinely forgetful. But over time, those small, isolated incidents started to stack up. Now, I'm starting to see a more troubling picture. There's this gnawing feeling in my gut that maybe this isn't just about occasional forgetfulness or financial hiccups. It's that feeling that's making me question everything. Am I being paranoid, or is there something deeper at play? I need to unravel these mixed emotions and figure out if this relationship is as genuine as I once believed. Things took a sharper turn about 3 months ago when Emma lost her job. It was a shock to both of us. The startup she worked for had to downsize unexpectedly, leaving her without a paycheck and in a state of emotional upheaval. Naturally, I wanted to be supportive. I assured her we'd get through it together. But as days turned into weeks, I noticed the financial burden shifting even more onto my shoulders. At first, I saw this as an opportunity to be there for her, to help her through a tough time. I covered her rent for a month, thinking it was a temporary solution while she sought new employment. However, Emma seemed to be in no rush to find another job. She'd spend most of her days at home, claiming to be working on her portfolio. But there were no interviews, no promising leads, just a lot of Netflix and social media scrolling. The real curveball came when she suggested we take a weekend getaway to clear her mind. She said it would be good for us, a way to escape the stress of her unemployment. I was stunned considering our current financial situation, yet she seemed oblivious to the growing tension. When I hesitated, she brushed it off, saying, "It's just a little trip, you can afford it." That statement hit me hard. Here I was, trying to balance my own finances while supporting both of us, and it felt like she was treating it as an endless resource. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was the realization that maybe she didn't fully grasp or care about the strain it was putting on me. I started feeling a mix of anxiety and frustration. How did we go from a loving, supportive relationship to this unbalanced dynamic? Was I enabling her, or was she taking advantage of my kindness? My mind raced with questions, and each day the weight felt heavier. These thoughts plagued me, affecting my work and my sleep. I'd lie awake at night, torn between confronting her about my concerns and fearing how it might affect our relationship. The stress was becoming unbearable, yet the fear of losing her kept me silent. It was as if I was trapped in a web of my own making, unsure how to untangle myself without causing everything to fall apart. Determined to find a solution and regain some balance in our relationship, I decided to take action. I knew I had to talk to Emma about how I was feeling. One evening after dinner, I mustered up the courage to have an open conversation. I expressed my concerns about our financial situation and how I felt the burden had shifted significantly onto me since she lost her job. Emma seemed surprised at first, as if she hadn't realized the extent of the pressure I was under. She assured me she'd start looking for jobs more actively, and I believed her. We agreed on a plan. She would dedicate a few hours each day to job hunting and keep me updated on her progress. I felt a wave of relief, hoping this conversation would be the turning point. In parallel, I started budgeting more strictly, tracking every expense to ensure we didn't overspend. I even reached out to a financial advisor friend for advice on how to better manage our resources. The initial steps felt promising, and I was cautiously optimistic. However, another curveball came when Emma's car broke down. It was an old model, and the repair costs were substantial. She approached me, asking if I could help cover the expenses since she was still unemployed. My heart sank. Just when I thought we were making progress, this unexpected expense threatened to unravel everything. I struggled with the decision. On one hand, I wanted to help her out of loyalty and love. On the other, I feared sinking deeper into financial strain. After much internal debate, I decided to help, but with a condition. I asked her to consider selling the car and using public transportation or ride-sharing until she could afford a new one. She seemed hesitant but agreed reluctantly. Despite this compromise, the emotional toll was undeniable. The car repair was another reminder of our precarious situation, and it forced me to reconsider if my efforts were truly making a difference. Each attempt to solve our issues seemed to introduce a new layer of complexity, leaving me feeling like I was constantly playing catch-up. I realized that I needed a more sustainable approach, and perhaps even professional advice to truly untangle the mess we were in. The ongoing tension between Emma and me began to seep into every aspect of my life, casting a shadow over my once vibrant outlook. Emotionally, I felt like I was on a roller coaster with no end in sight, oscillating between moments of hope and waves of despair. The once easygoing and joyful nature of our relationship was now replaced by a heavy atmosphere of unspoken frustrations and lingering doubts. Mentally, the stress was overwhelming. My concentration at work suffered. My performance dipped as I found it increasingly difficult to focus on coding and project deadlines. Colleagues started noticing my distracted demeanor, but I was too ashamed to open up about the real issues plaguing me. Instead, I bottled it up, which only added to the internal turmoil I was experiencing. Socially, I began to withdraw. Friends would invite me out, but I often declined, not wanting to face their questions about why Emma and I weren't the lively, inseparable couple they once knew. I dreaded their well-meaning advice and the potential judgment they might cast on my situation. It was easier to isolate myself than to risk exposing the cracks in what once seemed like the perfect relationship. Our home, which used to be a sanctuary of laughter and companionship, now felt cold and distant. The silence between us was deafening, punctuated only by occasional, strained attempts at normal conversation. The comfort of companionship was replaced by a suffocating sense of loneliness, even when we were in the same room. The internal conflict was relentless. I felt trapped between wanting to fix things and questioning if they were even fixable. Was I clinging to an idealized version of our relationship that no longer existed? The fear of making the wrong decision, whether staying or leaving, kept me in a state of paralysis. As days turned into weeks, the unresolved problem loomed larger, affecting my overall quality of life. I found myself lying awake at night, plagued by the same cycle of worries and fears, longing for a semblance of clarity and peace. I realized that something had to change, but the path forward seemed shrouded in uncertainty. The burden of carrying this alone was becoming unbearable, and I knew I needed to confront these emotions head-on to find a way out. After months of trying to patch things up and failing to find a sustainable solution, I found myself contemplating more drastic measures. It was a thought I had been pushing to the back of my mind, but now it was impossible to ignore. The idea of breaking up with Emma loomed over me like a dark cloud, a possibility that seemed both terrifying and liberating. The prospect of ending things filled me with fear. What if I was wrong about her motives, and this decision ruined something that could have been salvaged? There was a part of me that clung to the hope that we could still find our way back to the vibrant relationship we once had. But another part of me knew that continuing down this path was unsustainable, both emotionally and financially. I also worried about the social implications. How would our mutual friends react? Would they understand my decision, or would they see me as the bad guy who gave up too easily? The thought of facing judgment and navigating the fallout of a breakup added another layer of stress. On the other hand, the emotional toll of staying in a relationship that felt increasingly one-sided was weighing heavily on my mental health. I was stuck in a cycle of stress and doubt, and something had to give. My internal conflict was a constant tug of war, each side vying for dominance and leaving me paralyzed by indecision. As I grappled with these thoughts, I realized that I was at a crossroads. I could continue trying to fix things, hoping for a change that might never come, or I could take a leap into the unknown, risking heartache for the chance of finding peace. The uncertainty was daunting, but I knew that whatever decision I made would shape the course of my life moving forward. As I sit here, reflecting on everything that's unfolded over the past few months, I can't help but feel like I'm standing at a precipice, unsure of which way to turn. The love I once felt so deeply now feels tangled with doubts and burdens that seem insurmountable. I'm exhausted from trying to make things work, yet terrified of what life might look like if I decide to walk away. I've laid out my heart here, hoping to find some clarity. Have any of you been in a similar situation? How did you navigate the murky waters of a relationship where financial dynamics seem to overshadow everything else? Is there a way to bring things back to a more balanced and loving state, or is it time to face the possibility that we've reached the end of our road together? I know there's no magic answer, but maybe someone out there has walked this path before and can offer guidance or a perspective I haven't considered. Even if it's just to hear that I'm not alone in this struggle, it would mean the world to me. Thank you for listening to my story. Sometimes just putting it all into words helps lighten the load, even if just a little. I'm hopeful that with your insights, I might find a way forward, whatever that may be. I'm a 28-year-old struggling with whether my girlfriend values me or my wallet after months of financial strain and failed attempts to restore balance, seeking advice.